Hi, and welcome to Hull Hull TV. I'm Dana O'Brien, and I'm joined by founding partner Ian Hull and managing partner Suzana Popovic-Montag at Hull Hull LLP, an innovative law firm that practices exclusively in estate, trust, and capacity litigation. Here at Hull Hull TV, we're exploring the issues around estate planning that affect you. Ian and Suzana, choosing an executor is an important decision given the emotional and legal consequences. Ian, what are the considerations in terms of making that decision, and are there family members who should be automatically ruled out?
Well, I really, when I get that question asked by my clients, I tell them to take a deep breath and remember that you're picking someone to run your company in its own way. You're picking a president. You need a leader. You need someone who can either manage people or know where to get the access to information, who knows how to get the resources organized to attend to the administration steps. So ruling out or ruling in is sort of a negative way of putting it in my view, because I think the way we do it is we say, look, who is best suited? And instead of trying to say, well, I'm going to choose this person because they've always been a lifelong friend, or it's my closest brother or my closest sister, I make them think about it from a business standpoint, because it's a business decision and it has to be separated from emotion at some level. The second part I'll do is often say, do you need one? Do you want two? Do you want three? Do you want more? And typically, if the right circumstances, 3 is a good number. 2 tends to be impossible to deal with because it's hard to break the tie. Mm-hmm. And when you get more than 3, and even in large estates, it gets a bit cumbersome.
And why would you have 3 executors?
Well, it's just a question of bringing in, often we'll have an advisor, the accountant, maybe the lawyer, and maybe a family member, or the spouse, the surviving spouse. And you balance all the different interests and all the different expertise, and it's all right at the table.
And what about sitting down with the person you've chosen as your executor ahead of time? Is that something you would encourage, Suzana?
Oh, absolutely. I think that communication is always very, very important and the key to making sure that your wishes get upheld. But the practical reality is that many times people just don't have the opportunity, or they don't take the opportunity to do that.
Are there rules and guidelines that set out what an executor is supposed to do?
There's no rules per se. There certainly are expectations, because an executor is a fiduciary, and as a result they've got certain obligations to the estate and the beneficiaries of the estate. And so many times, and in most cases I would say, people will know to go to see a lawyer and to seek some legal advice, and then they'll be provided with checklists or the things that they can cross off, having said that they've done what they were required to do.
Ian, what are some of the executor's first responsibilities?
Well, the executor has the business responsibilities, obviously, that come into play and can come into play very quickly. The classic initial responsibility is that a will speaks from death, and the executor has to attend to immediate issues. If the person passed away, for example, the body has to be dealt with, and so on.
And what's the next step, Suzana, after funeral arrangements?
Well, after that, then it's a matter of sort of following along that checklist and collecting in the assets of the estate, determining what the liabilities and debts of it are, perhaps advertising for creditors to make sure that everyone's being picked up along the way, and then, making sure that the estate ultimately gets administered according to the terms of the will or pursuant to the laws of the jurisdiction on an intestacy.
And how does an executor go about confirming that the will they're acting under is current?
Many times they'll rely on their lawyer to help them advertise in the proper forum to make sure that there is no other later last will and testament of an individual. And if they have any serious concerns that perhaps they're not operating under the last will, then they may actually seek court approval or probate, which is simply court confirmation of the fact that that is the last will and testament of the deceased.
Ian and Suzana, thank you. And thanks for joining us on Hull Hull TV.